babies, when they're born, should have almost 80 to 100% of their gut microbiota composed of Bifidobacteria. There is a really what I would consider a landmark study that was published earlier this year that found they tested newborns. Almost all of them had no Bifidobacteria levels. None or very, very low. And again, it should be 80 to 100%. There was a Scottish pathologist 100 years ago that looked at baby poops and compared baby poops of breastfed babies and formula-fed babies. The breastfed babies of 100 years ago had 100% Bifidobacteria. Fast forward now, the breastfed babies of today, their gut microbiomes look much more like the gut microbiomes of the formula-fed babies 100 years ago.
Oh,
right?
my goodness.
Even nursing doesn't guarantee that your baby's going to have the right microbiome to inform and educate their immune system from the start. And that has to do with environmental toxins, ultra-processed foods, psychological stress, which can harm our microbiome as much as any toxin that we're put in. The overuse and inappropriate use of antibiotics, whether in our food supply or actual antibiotics that are prescribed for children. In some studies, up to 70% of antibiotics were inappropriately prescribed. Most kids, when they get sick, they have viruses and antibiotics don't do anything. This is what, we have done to our microbiomes, and it's time to wake up and recognize that and figure out how to optimize our microbiome so that we as kids and adults can have the healthiest gut immune system connections and gut brain connections.
Is that what you're ultimately talking about? Is like resilience comes from that strong and resilient immune system?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, resilience, we're thinking more about mental health resilience, that grit, the blessing of a skinned knee. How do you kind of get back up? But that trickles to every cell in our body and affects our immune system, affects our gut microbiome. In fact, we can now see measures of gut microbiome resilience. How resilient is your gut microbiome to bouncing back after a round of antibiotics or after a vacation where you just ate, tons of junk all week long? All of those can affect our microbiome. And so it's not that we want to live in a bubble. We want to reduce the factors that disrupt our gut microbiome, but we also want to build that resilience so that when the inevitable birthday party with neon blue frosted cupcakes make it into your kid's diet, you're not freaking out and you can trust, okay, their microbiome took a little hit just now, gonna bounce back, and I have the tools to do that.
What are the top 3 symptoms you're seeing in kids these days, and what are potential things that parents can immediately incorporate to support those symptoms with some healing?
I'd say the most common issues that I'm seeing in kids as young children, it's eczema. I mean, 1 in 3 kids to 1 in 5 kids nowadays has eczema. And the babies I'm seeing, most of them are not coming in with buttery, soft skin that we think of as smooth baby skin. And then, of course, as kids get older, they have the bumps on their arms, the keratosis pilaris, and then the acne. I mean, those are all signs that there's something going on the inside that's not balanced, that's coming out on the skin. And then we have the brain symptoms. Attention and focus and behavioral symptoms show up really early on, and anxiety. When your kids are little and they're in preschool and they're starting elementary school, for most parents, it's all about their immune health. So that is part of it. If your kids are getting sick all the time, getting ear infections all the time, that also is a sign, hey, let's look to see what's going on inside that we can balance. How do we, optimize their immune health and their gut health? But then, towards the end of elementary, middle school, and certainly by high school, the immune health takes a lower level of concern and it becomes a mental health and anxiety and, this lack of stress resilience. And what we're seeing in our teenagers is really, this crisis of mental health that has existed for decades, but now is really coming to light. I think thankfully, this new generation of kids, there's not as much of a mental health stigma. And so there's an openness about talking about, well, I have anxiety, I have ADHD, I'm neurodiverse. And yet we're not meeting them with the tools that they need to then manage their anxieties or their ADHD or, whatever behavioral, cognitive concerns that they have. And so I really want to help kids reframe that. I think about this because my daughter right now, she's 15 and a half. Teenage girls, since the pandemic, up to 1 in 3 teenage girls has seriously thought of suicide.
I hear cutting is increased as well, right?
Cutting is increasing. And I look for that in my kids. And when I see marks, I'll ask them, why did that happen? why did you hurt yourself? What's going on here? With the parents not in the room, well, I'll ask them, what's going on? What happened that you really felt like you needed to do this, because this is not okay. Your brain should not feel this way. When we think about the gut-brain connection, that's why I always talk to kids and teenagers about what their gut microbiome does for them. I want them to understand that their gut microbiome produces up to 80 to 90% of their serotonin, which a lot of high schoolers have heard of serotonin, quote, brain chemical that helps us feel calm and relaxed, manage stress, helps us sleep. But we can only have the optimal amount of serotonin in our bodies if we have the right gut microbes to make the serotonin for us. And I've had remarkable stories. In fact, I just spoke with this one kiddo yesterday, and she came to me at 10 years of age with ADHD, OCD, ODD. I mean, you name it. I mean, she had all of these initials, diagnoses, and she had tried many different medications. All of them either caused worse behaviors or caused her to stop eating, losing weight. I mean, too many side effects. None of them really helped her behavioral and cognitive symptoms. When the parents came to me, they were desperate because she had stopped really eating. She had narrowed down to like 3 different foods. The whole family was walking on eggshells. I mean, the poor girl, she did not like how she was acting, but she couldn't control it. And the parents were almost afraid of interacting in the least bit because she would explode and become aggressive and throw things and become aggressive with her younger sister. The vibration of their stress was so palpable. The first thing I did was just say, look, I'm not going to, give you any supplements or make you change your diet if you don't want to, but I'm going to educate you and tell you why I think that's important. And so we just laid that foundation. And the mom called that night and said, she heard you and she was willing to have a little floret of broccoli on her plate. You have the power here. And then I spoke with her about her microbiome and she agreed to do a stool test. And when we looked through her stool test, she had these abnormal bacteria that we know can cause a lot of inflammation. She had something called lipopolysaccharide that these abnormal bacteria make that can cause a lot of immune and brain symptoms. And we worked on that with some supplements. Within less than a month, her mom called back and said, I can't believe that my daughter is willing to take her supplements every single day. She must be feeling better. This is the first time we've seen her actually relax and smile in months or years. And she said, I thank you so much. We finally feel like we're getting our daughter back. Oh. And that was in less than 1 month.
If you enjoyed the clip from the podcast, make sure to check out the next video up here or head over to watch the full episode down here. And before you go, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Come on. Yeah, thanks for watching.